I'm aware that I made a mistake, but honestly, you have to hear the complete tale before you condemn me. When my husband gave up on himself, I'm 29-year-old Brielle, and I'm going to tell you how I may have gone too far in my husband's circumstances. Allow me to reminisce about my first encounter with Nathan. Imagine this, I'm with my girlfriends at a rooftop bar in Minneapolis, when a tall man with gorgeously thick brown hair, the kind you see in those high-end shampoo ads, walks in. At the time, he was 32 years old, employed in IT management, and had a confidence that attracted everyone. We were married within a year of meeting, and I clearly recall my friend Maddie leaning over and whispering, "That man's got good genes." We were hurried, as everyone claimed, but when you know, don't you? In addition, I was killing it in real estate, and he had this amazing job. We had this beautiful existence that looked fantastic on Instagram, a gorgeous condo downtown, and matching Tesla as well. He bought mine as a wedding present. My fans devoured it, in a sense. I was living the dream. It was like something from a movie. During the first 6 months of marriage, we were the pair that everyone aspired to be. We traveled and entertained at dinner parties. I swear all of Nathan's female co-workers were envious. When he took me to these upscale company functions, he wasn't precisely Chris Hemsworth, but he could look good in any outfit thanks to his swagger and hair. Then, however, things began to shift. One night as we were getting ready for bed, I noticed it for the first time. On the back of his skull, there was an area that appeared thinner. I made an effort to ignore it, but it seemed impossible to turn it off once I saw it. It was simply there each time he looked in the direction of it or came out of the shower. Initially, I made an effort to be discreet. I would have these hair loss therapy articles open on my laptop. In Instagram postings regarding these miraculous hair growth products, I would tag him in an attempt to subtly hint at it. I even purchased him this incredibly pricey shampoo for his birthday. However, Nathan continued to act as though nothing was wrong. He would give me a good morning kiss while grinning broadly, completely unaware that his hairline was practically escaping his face. He always wore these baseball caps on the weekends, and I began to notice, for example, who goes to brunch wearing a cap? It was humiliating. My friends also began to notice. Do you recall her from the bar, Maddie? The change was startling when she showed me this old photo from when we first met Nathan. At least he's rich, she replied in an attempt to cheer me up. That's not the purpose, though. Instead of someone who would look like my dad in 5 years, I signed up to be with a gorgeous IT guy. I made every effort to persuade him to take action. I would show him these hair transplant before and after photos of men. I would gently bring up the fact that my friend's spouse began taking these medications, and Nathan would simply smile and say, "Baby, it's genetic. It's not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal." Do you know how many likes our wedding photographs received? The hair returned better than ever. With a monastic-looking husband, how am I supposed to maintain my social media presence, not to mention the numerous filters I had to use? I had to start capturing all of our photos at extremely precise angles in order to conceal it. The worst aspect was the way it began to impact our social lives. Nathan used to like going out and being the life of the party, but recently he has started using excuses to avoid attending events. He claims to be exhausted and is working later. I get that he is self-conscious, but he is to blame for doing nothing about it. I truly did try to be encouraging. I didn't even bring up the likely high cost. When he brought this pricey hair growth foam product home one day, we both knew that wouldn't work. But I just grinned and said, "That's great, honey. Why wouldn't every guy utilize it if it was so simple?" I found him gazing at himself in the bathroom mirror last month, with a dejected expression on his face as he ran his fingers through what was left of his hair. I simply walked away without expressing my true thoughts. To be honest, though, what did he anticipate? You can't expect your wife to accept you letting yourself go like that. Despite the fact that she has been with my dad for 30 years, my mother claims that I am being superficial and that marriage is more than appearances. She's obviously gotten used to living in that phase of life where comfort comes before attraction. I haven't arrived yet. I'm not even 30. At open homes, I continue to get approached frequently. When he came to look at a house only last week, this person remarked he couldn't believe I was married. Nathan is over here in the meantime, seeming as though he is trying out for a Rogaine commercial before photo. When he took this new medication that his doctor had prescribed, things really started to go south. He truly believed that taking these medicines would miraculously restore his hair. He spent over $2,000 on this treatment plan, which, incidentally, might have been used to update my fall outfit. And you know what? He appeared the same, if not worse, 3 months later. I began to make references to hair transplants. He earns a good living after all. And we don't even have children yet to spend it on, but each time I brought it up, he would become quiet and strange. I don't want to get surgery for something cosmetic, he would add. Excuse me, we're talking about our marriage, not simply a superficial issue. I also saw a decline in Instagram interaction. Every time I try to snap a picture today, all I notice is that bright spot on his head. Before, I would upload these adorable couple photos of us on vacation or at fancy restaurants. I had to either publish only old pictures from our initial encounter or start taking more solo photographs. People began leaving uncomfortable comments like, "Where's Nathan?" and "Haven't seen your hubby in a while." This charity banquet that his employer was sponsoring was the tipping point. I spent the entire day at the salon getting ready for Nathan's allotted brief speech. I must admit that I looked fantastic. However, Nathan then arrived sporting this hideous headgear, a black tie event hat. That's where I nearly died. I practically had to pull him to the restroom and force him to remove it. You would think I was asking him to strip naked or something based on the expression on his face. I understood why he wanted to hide when he eventually removed it. His hair seemed to be competing with his forehead to see how far back it could grow. I may have had a few too many champagnes that evening and told his co-workers' wives how difficult it must be to watch your husband age. They all stared at me as if I were a monster, but really, they were thinking the same thing. I observed their gaze on him from then on. Nathan became really strange. Every morning, he would spend a long time in the restroom trying to disguise the thinning areas in his hair. It was pitiful. Not to mention the hair fibers. He purchased this powder substance that is meant to give the appearance of thicker hair. Every morning, our bathroom sink was covered in black powder and resembled a crime scene. My pals began to split into 2 groups. Most of them understand. They send me links to news about divorce lawyers or celebrity hair transplants. Just kidding, Ashley, on the other hand, had the audacity to accuse me of emotional abuse. I'm the one suffering here. So pardon me, how difficult is it to watch someone you care about simply lose their spark? Our intimacy is being negatively impacted, which is the hardest part. I can hardly look at him when he comes out of the shower anymore. Even though I used to like running my fingers over his hair, he began to turn off the lights during our intimate moments. Most likely because he understands how I felt. However, you can't control what you're drawn to, therefore, it's not my responsibility. His family is beginning to take note as well. I received a lengthy text from his sister telling me that Nathan is having a lot of trouble and that I should be more helpful, as if it had anything to do with anything. She even dared to mention how much money he spent on my lifestyle. Husbands are expected to support their wives in this way. They shouldn't simply give up on their appearance, though. Nathan was ecstatic when he went home from work last month. After receiving a significant promotion, he was supposed to lead a brand new technology division. To be honest, I fell asleep while he discussed work-related topics. His shrinking patch was catching the light from our kitchen pendant lamps. And that was all I could think about. However, he was ecstatic when he mentioned that we could now afford the suburban home of his dreams. At that point, he revealed that his entire team would be attending a lavish dinner to celebrate his promotion. Nathan was virtually jumping up and down about it. He said, "As I sit there, I see what I have to look at every day and consider how everyone will be staring at him." During his speech, before the dinner, I made one final attempt to make things right. I really scheduled an appointment for him at this upscale men's salon in the heart of the city. They create these incredible hair systems that seem quite natural rather than two-piece. Nathan flatly refused to go, even though they were extremely expensive. He mentioned being genuine and accepting of who he is. My buddy Maddie suggested that I call in ill for the dinner, but I couldn't do that to Nathan, so I wanted to yell, "Authentic, is that what we're calling giving up now?" Yes, I am ashamed of his appearance, but I am still his wife. In addition, I had recently purchased a stunning new outfit that enhanced my appearance. Every one of his tech-savvy co-workers, along with their spouses, would be present. Even though my spouse was letting himself go, I had to prove to him that I was still the sexiest person in the room. Nathan bought me this pricey necklace the week before the dinner. In an attempt to make up for the hair system issue, thank you, sweetie, but jewelry won't make your thinning hairline stand out. Whenever I compliment him on his hair, he buys me costly goods. He has been lately. After I noted that he was beginning to resemble his father in old pictures, he received a brand new Louis Vuitton bag last week. Nathan became silent as he saw the old photo of us from our wedding day that I had shared on Instagram with the remark, missing this version of us. In fact, he began searching for the hair transplant specialist I had recommended, but I had already moved on. You know, too little, too late, to get some moral support. I went out for drinks with my girls the night before the dinner. They all advised me to be straightforward with him and express my feelings about his hair problem. Sometimes men need to hear the harsh truth to make a change, Maddie said, and she's not entirely wrong. Where had we ended up after I had been skirting his sentiments for months? Even after I gave him my ring, this really attractive guy at the bar continued to make advances on me that same evening. He was constantly praising me and had this wonderful, thick hair. In the meantime, my spouse is beginning to resemble a tennis ball with eyebrows. Nathan was waiting for me on the couch when I arrived home, his thinning spot beautifully accentuated by the TV light. I nearly burst into tears at that very moment. Nathan tried to style his hair in the bathroom for around an hour on the morning of the dinner. Even though those silly hair fibers give the impression that he spray painted his head, he utilized them once more. I could only think, if he doesn't do something about it, this is what I have to deal with for the rest of my life. As I watched him fretting in the mirror, growing increasingly irritated, he had the appearance of a child just before his first school dance. I simply could no longer bring myself to tell lies. Eventually, the truth will surface. I was just going to be the one with the courage to speak it. We arrive at this upscale restaurant in the heart of the city, complete with real tablecloths and more forks than anyone could possibly need. Nathan's entire team is present, along with high-profile professionals wearing pricey suits. I immediately started drinking wine because, to be honest, I needed it to cope with everyone acting as though Nathan's hair condition was unnoticeable. I was sitting between this adorable sales director and his wife, and I was genuinely enjoying myself throughout the first hour. From the other side of the table, Nathan would constantly try to get my attention by smiling at me as if we were exchanging secrets. It was kind of sad, yet sweet. All I could think about was how the overhead lighting was spotlighting every single place where his hair used to be while he was enjoying his big moment. The remarks were then scheduled. First to rise, Nathan's employer spoke about how valuable Nathan is to the business, how he has demonstrated leadership potential, and other such topics. People's eyes kept straying to Nathan's head during this speech, as if they were trying to be courteous, but come on, it was hard to avoid staring. I was already on my fourth glass of wine when Nathan took the stage. He got to his feet, appearing both anxious and delighted, and began to speak passionately about how appreciative he was of the chance. At that moment, he ran his fingers through what was left of his hair, a nervous habit he had had since I first met him. But this time it only served to highlight the issue. I have no idea what overcame me, but I was unable to stop myself. I wish he'd stop doing that. It's not like he has enough hair left to run his fingers through anyway. I muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear as I leaned over to the sales director next to me. The entire table fell silent. Nathan simply stopped speaking. His expression was as if I had just smacked him, but I was powerless to stop the annoyance. It all just poured out. One person gasped as I went on, pointing to my wine glass. If you're going to be an executive, shouldn't you at least try to look the part? I've been begging him to do something about his hair for months, but he just won't listen. It's like he doesn't even care how it makes me look. The worst part was that Nathan's supervisor was looking at me like I had grown a second head. Nathan remained silent. He simply stood there, staring into my eyes with I don't know. It was something worse than fury. I was on a roll when the sales director's wife attempted to divert the conversation by inquiring about the new project Nathan was supposed to be leading. Oh, he's got big plans for work, just none for saving his hairline. You ought to have seen him when we first met. He really is something. He used to have hair, but now he's beginning to resemble Mr. Clean. As soon as his boss finished the speeches, Ian sat down quietly, and everyone's attention was drawn to their desserts. For the remainder of the supper, forced small talk broke The agonizing silence. Nathan refused to even look at me when I tried to get his attention and perhaps make him laugh it off as a joke. It was worse on the way home. Nathan remained silent throughout. He simply held on to the steering wheel till his knuckles became white, stone-faced. He continued driving despite my attempts to clarify that I was simply being honest and that everyone was thinking it nonetheless. I thought he would yell, become irate, or do something when we came home. But instead he went directly to the guest room and locked the door. I felt much more sober than I wanted to be as I stood in our hallway, still wearing my expensive outfit. He was probably getting ready for bed because I could hear him moving around in there. I wanted to knock and try to explain myself, but I wasn't sure what to say. That I felt bad about being honest, that I was sad that everyone now understood my true feelings, that I was sad he didn't simply get better so I wouldn't have to experience this. The days that followed were like being in a silent film. Nathan simply stopped communicating with me. He would arrive home late, having risen earlier than I did. No more kisses in the morning. No more texts to check in during the day, nothing. He also continued to sleep in the guest room, which I thought was a little over the top. I made an effort to defuse the situation, in the hopes that he would finally be prepared to solve the issue. I ordered his favorite takeaway, got him some new clothing, and even looked up those hair transplant doctors once again. However, he would simply get up and leave the room if I attempted to bring it up, really grown up. Nathan, but my inbox was overflowing. His sister sent me this amazing text about how I ruined Nathan's big moment and how I'm a narcissistic bully. Excuse me, I did him a favor, if anything. It's better to hear it from his devoted wife than from everyone else behind his back, isn't it? My own pals also began to behave strangely. At the pub, Maddie had been urging me to be honest with him, but now she refused to take my calls. Ashley told me outright that I was mean to her and that she needed time away from our connection. In any case, her husband is already totally bald, so she's just jealous. Social media was the worst. All of these spouses from Nathan's firm were suddenly unfollowing me, so it must have been someone from the dinner who shared the story. I recently posted a cute selfie to Instagram with the comment, "Living my truth," but it received almost no likes. It was a genuine betrayal. I made an effort to let Nathan know that I was only watching out for him. Consider your career, I remarked one evening through the door of the guest room. Do you not want to appear successful? Are you indifferent to the opinions of others? When he did respond, he merely stated, "I used to only care what you thought." What does that mean? Then, I observed anything strange last week. Nathan had been spending his mornings at the gym. He also received some lovely new clothes, different from his regular tech bro attire. The absurd thing is that, without consulting me beforehand, he buzzed off all of his hair and shaved his head totally. He simply shrugged and replied, "Not your hair, not your problem." Excuse me, I was freaking out about it because, hello, this is not what I meant by correcting the problem. Everything about you is an issue for me since I am your wife. His entire outlook has also shifted. He used to constantly attempt to satisfy me and worry so much about making me happy. He doesn't even respond when I comment on his appearance anymore. He merely gave me this pitying look, as if I were some depressed, pitiful person. When I told him yesterday that his shaved head made him appear like a thumb, his credit card bill informed me that he has been attending therapy sessions, a counselor. It's like I'm the reason he's so insecure that he needs expert assistance. However, he no longer appears insecure. On the contrary, he appears more composed and self-assured. It's eerie, not even his family is attempting to guilt-trip me anymore. I called his mother to voice my displeasure about the head shaving incident, and she simply remarked, "I think Nathan's finally seeing things clearly." What does that mean? She used to adore me, but now she's treating me like a villain since I made her son seem. Then everything finally fell apart yesterday. Nathan was seated at our kitchen island with a pile of papers in front of him. When I got home from an open house, something in his eyes, not just the shorn head, changed the way he looked. Not even waiting for me to set down my bag, he exclaimed, "I'm done." I initially assumed he meant that I was finished with dinner. But then he slid the papers in my direction. Divorce papers, like real divorce paperwork. Already filled out. Come on, a divorce over remarks about his hair. I burst out laughing. Nathan wasn't laughing, though. I must admit that I was a little alarmed by his extremely composed tone. I used to feel quite fortunate to have a lovely wife who picked me. I tried to be deserving of you and fulfill all of your desires for years. However, I now see that you never truly chose me instead. You chose what you believed I could offer you and who you believed I could be." He continued to talk as if he had practiced this speech. Despite my repeated attempts to interrupt and clarify that I was only attempting to assist him and help him become the best version of himself, the problem is, Brielle, you not only made fun of my hair loss but also of my dignity, confidence, and sense of self-worth, all of which you did in front of my coworkers and the people I'm meant to lead. However, I should really thank you since I finally got a clear picture of you that evening at dinner when you chose to make fun of me. I only tried to help him. So how come this dude is acting like I'm the villain? I told him how much I had given up for our marriage, how I had supported him when he let go, how I was ready to help him with his hair problem, and even how I had volunteered to use some of his money to help pay for the hair transplant. Nevertheless, Nathan only grinned, not his typical charming grin, but this pathetic, melancholy one. He asked, "You know what's funny?" I started crying because I had nowhere else to turn. I spent so much time worrying about losing my hair. But what I should have been worried about was who I'd already lost you to, vanity. Even though he looks like a thumb with his head shaved. I told him we could work on it and that I would stop talking about his hair. He simply shook his head, though. "I've already signed a lease on a new place," stated the man. "I'm moving out this weekend. You can keep the condo. I know how much you care about appearances. And it would look if you had to downsize." That's when it occurred to me, all those therapy sessions, the new clothes, the exercise regimen. He had been preparing for this. He was getting ready to leave me, not attempting to win me back. Thus, I find myself sitting at our vacant condo. In an attempt to understand how everything went so wrong, he moved out this morning. My mother-in-law, soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, told all her friends that I'm the devil incarnate. My Instagram following has decreased by half, and the majority of my friends have stopped interacting with me. What's the worst thing, you ask? Yesterday, I ran into Nathan at Starbucks. He was laughing like real, head thrown back laughter, and he was with this woman who was probably about our age and kind of attractive in that effortless, natural way. He no longer laughs with me in that way, as if it were the most commonplace thing in the world. The woman was stroking his foolishly shaven head. I don't understand. I only wanted my spouse to appear fantastic so that we could continue to project the same image from our initial meeting. Is that truly incorrect? I was just being honest, but everyone keeps acting like I'm this awful person. All of this wouldn't have occurred if he hadn't been so sensitive about it and had simply corrected his hair when I first brought it up. But whatever. There are plenty of men with full heads of hair out there, and I'm still young and attractive. All I can hope is that the next one will value honesty more than Nathan did, and perhaps begin spending money on early preventative hair loss treatments.